Alex, there's a lot of different variations and different ways to rig this.
Patterns have been working really well.
This week's Buzz Bite report.
Just keep snapping it off the bottom. This is just a remarkable concentration of fish.
Real good fish.
Oh, she looks so nice. Wow, unreal. Look at that.
They are heavy.
Oh, look at that.
On today's show, we're talking about muskie. This is Angling Buzz TV. I'm Troy Linder.
And I'm Josh Borowski.
Josh, you guide all over Minnesota. You spend a lot of time up on Lake Vermilion hunting these big creatures, and you have a lot of experience fishing muskie. What have you seen change in the muskie world in recent years?
Well, so much has changed in recent years. First of all, we have a lot more muskies, a lot more places due to stocking. We have muskies all over North America now. Another thing that's changed a lot is the equipment. You know, when I was a kid, I think we started with 10 muskie lures when I was 7 years old fishing for muskies, and now we have hundreds of them. We also have a lot of great options for reels designed to fish the way that we do, casting all day long, really high speed retrieves. And we also have really nice long fishing rods now to cast all those heavy baits and also to make really nice wide figure eights. But the biggest thing that's probably changed things in recent years is electronics. You used to have to fish for muskies. To locate them, you either had to get a follow or you had to catch one. And now with my side imaging, I can actually look over and see whether there's a muskie there and know, like, that is a muskie for sure, no question about it. And that's really changing how we fish for muskies.
Yeah, it's incredible, the side imaging and how you can see those fish. A big muskie shows up pretty easily in side imaging. But right now, let's take a close look at hunting muskie. Determination, endurance, persistence, fortitude, attrition, obsession. Good words to describe the act of muskie fishing. It's been said over and over, it takes a special breed to chase muskies. Muskie fishing is unlike any other freshwater fishing. It is freshwater fishing's equivalent to big game hunting. The road to consistent success requires research, patience, mental toughness, and physical stamina, timing, and luck. Like many things in life, success, or a bite, hides just past the point where most quit. But with muskie fishing, believe it or not, luck can still trump effort. A great quote from Larry Dahlberg is, "The odds of catching a big fish are inversely proportional to how much you actually deserve it." Most muskie fishermen have experienced that feeling, seeing a monster caught on a little lure while they have yet to see a follow. But all the effort is worth it when in that split second it happens, a monster bites, and the rewards of a big fish magically wash away the hours of casting. Then the cycle begins again. It's tiny moments in time that burn into the memory and drive muskie anglers to obsess over the next bite.
Got him. Nice one, Linda. There you go.
You know, when we talk about muskie fishing, timing is very important. We're in the third week of June right now. What are you doing to find and locate these fish?
Well, location for me has a lot to do with water temperature. And if you're in the mid 60s or below, which you may be right now depending on what part of muskie range you're in, a lot of times the fish, you'll still find them shallow near spawning areas. But once we start to get into the mid 60s and above, there's a big push where the majority of the fish and all the females will suspend out in the middle of the lake. And that is my favorite time to fish for them. We catch them trolling. We've actually had really good success casting the last couple of years. And one little tip I'll throw in too is a lot of times the fish are shallower than you think they are when they're out there. They're over very deep water, but they're not very deep in the water column. And if you're somehow over 72 degrees already, eventually those fish, when the water starts to warm up, will start to slide back up onto the structure. That would be my thought on where you're going to find the fish this time of year.
Yeah, paying attention to the water temperature is extremely important. Hey, after the short break, we have our highlight destination feature, as well as the first of our Buzz Bite reports. Stay with us.
Looking for the perfect fishing vacation? Leech Lake, Minnesota. There's over 112,000 acres of water to explore, with fantastic walleye, bass, pike, panfish, and trophy muskies. The fishing opportunities are endless. Leech Lake has it all, with over 30 resorts, lodges, campgrounds, and hotels line its pristine shores. Plan your trip It's Minnesota's original up north vacation destination.
From lawnmowers to lawn games, Fleet Farm has what you need to get the best backyard on the block. Whether it's season it, smoke it, grill it season. Green thumb is an understatement season. Or even, this is the life season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Many things have been said about rough waters, but few things have been said about a smooth ride. The revolutionary Smooth Moves Ultra is a mechanical suspension system that features a four-spring design and a hydraulic shock, providing the most comfortable and durable ride on the market. Through passion, tenacity, and the right equipment, you can overcome even the roughest waters.
For the bass that thinks it's a bulldog. For the walleye that thinks it's a freight train. For the tuna that thinks it's a torpedo. For the tarpon that thinks it's a tarpon. You need the mono that thinks it's a braid. Suffix Advance. New advanced mono with HMPE braid molecules for strength, abrasion resistance, and low stretch. Suffix Advance. The mono that thinks it's a braid.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. Today we're talking about hunting muskie. Now Josh, what is your process throughout a day on the water to find these big fish?
Well, basically my process is I like to do little controlled experiments out there every day. I like my baits fished in a certain order. I like to fish fastest to slowest. So the fastest bait is in the front of the boat, and the slowest, most erratic bait is in the back of the boat. And then I also like the best hooking percentage bait to always be in the front, and the poorest hooking percentage bait to be in the back. And then as we're fishing those baits, we alternate structure types from spot to spot. So one spot might be rocks, and then the next one might be weeds, and then we go back to rocks. And once we get bit, then we zero in on that particular pattern and make hay.
Yeah, that's a great process for sure. So right now, let's look at some muskie destinations in the Angling Buzz region.
The muskie range has dramatically increased over the last 30 years through stocking. Historically, they inhabited only 8 to 10 Midwestern and Northeastern states and a couple of Canadian provinces. Today, muskie are available to anglers in 31 states. This increase in muskie fishing opportunity has catapulted advancements in muskie rod, reel, and lure designs along with enhanced tactics and techniques. Today, we're going to share some overlooked and classic muskie fishing opportunities in the Angling Buzz region. Starting in North Dakota, yes, North Dakota, Lake Audubon and Lake New Johns. Lake Audubon has been seeing consistent stocking of tiger muskies for 8 years, while New Johns has been stocked with pure strains. This particular lake has kicked out some real monsters, including the current state record. In Minnesota, Leech Lake is fabled for numbers of big muskies, and it's surrounded by trophy waters that make this area the heart of Minnesota's muskie country. Cass, Big, Bemidji, Mantrap, and the Longville Lakes are just a few of the many options for great muskie fishing. The Alexandria area of Minnesota is known for great bass, walleye, and pan fishing, but it also has some fine muskie fishing. Lake Miltona, Oscar, and Lobster are 3 local favorites. Moving into eastern Wisconsin, it's hard not to talk about Green Bay. There are very few places in North America putting out this size of fish. If the next all-tackle world record is going to be caught, it could likely happen here. In the state of Michigan, Lake St. Clair is an unbelievable fishery with both numbers and size. Historically thought of as a trolling bite, many anglers today are having incredible success casting its massive weed beds. We can't leave out Ontario, Canada. The quality and quantity of fish, the scenery, and the layout of the water make Sunset Country the coolest place on the planet to muskie fish. While the big lakes like Lake of the Woods, Eagle, and Lac Seul are famous muskie fisheries, this same region has lots of smaller lakes with great muskie fishing, like Cedar, Cliff, Peralt Indian chain, and many more.
As you can see, there are a lot of great options in the Angling Buzz region for muskie fishing. And one lake, one big lake we have to mention, you have a lot of experience there, Lake Vermilion.
Yeah, I spend over half the season guiding on Lake Vermilion every year. I love the place. My favorite place in the world to go muskie fishing. It's a big lake, 40 miles across, 365 islands on it. Beautiful sunrises and sunsets, and probably the thing that I love the most about it is it grows muskies to gargantuan sizes. You know, there's really only a small handful of fisheries that grow them that big.
Yeah, it's incredible. When you see some of those big fish holds there, they're just monster size. And speaking of big fish, it's time for the first of our Buzz Bite reports.
First up, let's check in with Ryan McMahon for a Metro Muskie report.
Fish are a little bit sluggish. We're moving a lot of fish. We're starting to get bit a little bit more. Rubber baits like the Chaos Tackle Medusa have been getting bit. We've been moving a ton of fish on dive and rise jerk baits like this bar fighter jerk bait. Getting some reports of some bites. I can't seem to get them to bite on that one, but moving a lot. We got the shallow swimming dog from Muskie Innovations. This swim bait has been a great bait, kind of just off the break lines where there's a lot of bait fish hanging out right now. And then we've got the Phantom Softail, a glide bait. Great early season muskie bait. It's going to be an erratic, kind of walk the dog style lure that's going to take a long time to get from the end of the cast back to the boat, and it gives these fish a long time to think about it. And we've been getting some nippers, and we got a good bite the other day on this one. So keep tossing them, guys, and it's going to happen. They're turning on.
Explore Alexandria, Minnesota. Whether it's a long weekend or a week-long loaded with family fun, you'll find plenty of things to do in Alex. Unleash your inner explorer with over 300 lakes, beaches, parks, hundreds of miles of trails, dining, golf, shopping, museums, and history. Alexandria is Minnesota's hidden gem. Go to explorealex.com to find your vacation this season.
At Donalinger Auto, the customer comes first. That's why they've been in the automotive business for over 50 years. They pride themselves in making real connections with real people. They're auto experts and active community supporters. Buying, leasing, new or pre-owned, Donalinger's top-notch service stands above. They'll keep you on the road and on the water. Stop in for a visit to see the excellent variety or shop at home at DonalingerAuto.com.
Help your marine engine run smoother and last longer with Marine Pro from the makers of Seafoam Motor Treatment. Just pour it in. Fast starts and smooth running power have never been this easy. Seafoam Marine Pro, available at Fleet Farm.
According to Minnesota's Department of Natural Resources, in 2017, 97% of boaters surveyed by watercraft inspectors followed Minnesota's clean, drain, dispose laws. Let's keep it this way. Clean aquatic plants and animals from boats, trailers, and equipment. Drain all water from watercraft, including the motor, and keep drain plugs out during transport. Dispose of unused bait properly. Together, we're preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota.
Okay, let's do it.
Wow, that's a big boy there.
Unbelievable.
Look at the size of that beast.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. For our next report, we're going to talk Green Bay muskies with Doug Wegner.
We've been having a really good season so far. I think a lot of the Midwest has due to this late spring. There's a lot of big fish shallow, and we're targeting them with your standard spring baits. Small bucktails. I really like fishing single-bladed stuff, and also fishing deer hair too. Something besides tinsel sometimes, or also marabou. That deer hair is hollow, so you can actually fish it a little bit slower and without hitting the bottom if you're in really shallow water. As far as other bucktails that I really like, Muskie Frenzy Staggers. This bait here has two different blades on it, so it's still got that little bit of a thump to it. And I also like to put a lot of grubs on the back of my baits. I think it helps, get that fish to finally commit. It's a little bit of a teaser in front of their face. Topwater can be really good in the spring too, as long as you fish it right, and you just gotta fish it slow. Really standard or subtle topwater baits like this Top Raiders can be really, really good. Just fish them fast enough where that tail is just rolling over. This water is really cold and these fish aren't exactly super active and looking to feed. As far as equipment, I like really long rods. This here is a 9'10" rod. The longer rod will just help you cast those light baits further away from the boat, because generally you're going to be in shallow water. Watching your electronics too is super crucial. Watching your side imaging, seeing if you'd mark those fish, and watching your water temperatures. Those fish are mainly just looking for the warmest water possible.
Now let's talk to Luke Ronestrand in his Tackle Palace about the Lake Vermilion muskie bite.
Just got done guiding up on Lake Vermilion, and muskie fishing was pretty good. Muskies were still hanging out in the shallow bays around the weeds in the shallow sand. We were using a lot of small bucktails and spinners to cover water. Baits like the small CJs were really good. Baits like this Blue Fox Vibrex, and then Muskie Frenzy's new short Stagger 8. So those are what we were using to cover water and to locate the muskies. And then once we found them, we were slowing down and throwing a lot of slow moving topwaters at them, like walk the dog topwaters. And then baits like the Squirth Creeper. And then also subsurface gliders like the Phantoms. But pretty soon these fish are going to be transitioning out of the shallow water and out into the open water to start feeding on the Cisco's and recovering from the spawn. And we'll be using a lot of our more traditional sized muskie lures. Baits like these baby beavers have been traditionally really good. Baits like the Bulldog, and then also baits like the Medusa. Those fish are actually out there feeding and hanging out with the Cisco's that are high in the water column, but they're also suspending high in the water column for the warm water. That water near the surface is going to be warmer than the rest of the lake.
Next up, let's talk Leech Lake muskie location with Jeff Anderson.
Water temp is on the rise, the fish are done spawning, so I'm gonna identify and locate where those spawning bays are, but a lot of time this time of year those fish actually push out over that open water in those bays. So I'm gonna use my side imaging and drive around in those bays, try to mark those fish, and if I can mark them, we'll cast to them over the open water. And I'm also looking for green cabbage. The fish will start using green cabbage this time of year, so make sure to go and do your homework, find green cabbage, and there'll be muskies there. In a few weeks from now, maybe not even a few weeks, maybe 1 week from now, the fish are going to start transitioning to rocks. The sun is going to warm those rocks up, and those fish will move on to those rocks. There'll always be weed fish, and there always are, but the rocks are going to light up shortly.
Now let's check in with Joe Segura in Alexandria, Minnesota.
This has to be one of my favorite times of year to fish. It seems like just about every species is going right now. Just this week we've caught largemouth, smallmouth, northern, sunfish, crappie, and of course walleye. The panfish, just using a small tube jig, 4 to 15 foot of water, trolled right over the top of the weeds, has been doing quite well. The bass, they're starting to slide out of the real shallow stuff, maybe into the more midsection, 6 to 10 foot of water. They're pretty aggressive, so they're hitting just about any type. Tube jigs, worm, wacky style has been working well. As far as the walleye go, just drive around until I read pods of fish, and then tailor-make your presentation to where you find those fish. I found some walleyes in a big pile of weeds, and I pulled them out of there with a jig and a leech. And then wind was blowing in right along a rock break. The walleyes were stacked up, so we caught them on leeches and crawlers with Lindy rigs, trolled real slow across that break. So just kind of look at the situation and diagnose the technique, and you're going to have a much better day on the water.
Now let's head over to Michigan with Captain Ben Wolf.
Saginaw Bay is starting to fish really well for walleyes. They're in that early summer pattern. We're coming up on the full moon here, and that's going to bring a lot of smallmouth bass and largemouth bass up onto the beds to spawn. It's really important to try and get those fish back into the water as quickly as we can to really help sustain that fishery for years to come. And for the salmon angler, the Lake Michigan coast is fishing extremely well for salmon right now. We've got some really big fish and good bags being caught out of Manistee, Frankfort, and all up and down on the Lake Michigan side. Get out, have some fun, enjoy the warmer weather, and have a good time at it.
Thanks, Ben. Stick with us, because when we come back, we have more muskie action as Angling Buzz continues.
Lake Vermilion. Explore. Relax. Reconnect.
Minnesota's most beautiful lake.
Get hooked on our trophy walleye,
That's a beauty.
bass,
My favorite fish.
musky fish,
That's a beauty there.
Things to do? You'll never get bored.
Rooms with a view? We got 'em.
Lake Vermilion. 4 seasons of fun.
Help your engine run smoother and last longer with Seafoam Marine Pro. Get it today at Fleet Farm. And while you're there, enter for a chance to win this boat in the Seafoam Marine Pro sweepstakes. Seafoam Marine Pro, available at Fleet Farm.
Sportfish Michigan is your #1 source for top charter captains and fishing guides in Michigan. Our network of professionals are full-time anglers with years of experience providing customers with the best possible fishing trip services. Fish for trout, salmon, steelhead on Lake Michigan or its famous tributary rivers, the Traverse City area's world-class smallmouth bass, walleye fishing on the Detroit River and Saginaw Bay, or northern Michigan's spectacular ice fishing. We do it all. Sportfish Michigan. Get out. Get bit.
And now it's time for our cool products brought to you by Fleet Farm. You know, today we're talking about muskie fishing, and if you go into the store, you'll see just a whole variety of different baits. I'm going to try to break it down, make it simple with a few different styles and techniques right here. We're going to start with topwater, 2 different ones, the Night Walker from Suick and the Whopper Plopper from River to Sea. And many times that slow rolling single prop can really trigger muskie to bite. When we talk about inline spinners and bucktails, there's a lot out there. Right here we have from Muskie Mayhem the MDC and the Double Showgirl. And many times I've seen, you know, where smaller bucktails outproduce bigger bucktails, you know, in the middle of summer. And here from Northland Tackle, the Birdshot Bucktail. This is a little bit more for high speed. You can cast this and really, really crank it fast. And from Big Tooth, the Mini 8. Black is always a good color. Black on black, black on green, black on orange. This is a great line from Big Tooth. And when it comes to swim baits from Muskie Innovations, these two happen to be the Swimmin' Dog. A nice long profile, big profile, boot tail in the back from Muskie Innovations, the Swimmin' Dog. And from Bucher Outdoors, Shallow Raider, Depth Raider, must-have baits. You can see the Shallow Raider, a little bit smaller profile than the Depth Raider, makes it a little bit easier to cast, but both work really well. You can see the jointed Depth Raider here. Great, great baits from Bucher Outdoors. And fishing line. Braid is key when you're muskie fishing from Suffix, the 832 Advanced Super Line, 65 pound and 80 pound. Can't go wrong with either. And a good all-around rod from St. Croix, the Mojo Muskie Series. This is great value with the St. Croix performance and quality. This happens to be an 8-foot, 6-inch heavy action. This is really good for tucking in and giving you leverage to set these bigger hooks into the fish, and also the leverage to make really long casts. Definitely check out the Mojo Muskie line from St. Croix. And to help keep you cool during these hot, muggy summer months in the upper Midwest from Blackfish, this is the Angler Long Sleeve. This has a chemical-free cooling from Cool Core, 4-way stretch. Also a UPF rating of 30, really lightweight, really easy to wear long sleeve to help protect you from the sun as well as keeping you cool out on the water. All these products, you can get them online, fleetfarm.com. You can also get them in store at your local Fleet Farm. And right now it's time for our technique of the week.
Hey there, Lee Tauken here with Today's Angler YouTube channel, and today I'm going to talk about, without a doubt, the most exciting form of muskie fishing there is. That's topwater fishing. You know, really quite the most incredible thing about topwater fishing is that there's a lot of muskie fishermen out there that have not even caught a muskie on a topwater. How is this possible? I have no idea. Because it's definitely the most fun way to catch one. Not only is topwater fishing the most exciting way to catch a fish, especially a muskie, it's also the most unique way to catch a muskie. The topwater lure category in and itself is very unique to, well, let's just say these baits are somewhat terrestrial to a muskie, as opposed to fish chasing other fish. Obviously they eat, shad or ciscos or perch or bluegills or whatever it may be that are underwater, subsurface, but as soon as you put a bait on top of them, it's like almost they become a different creature. Topwater lures are for sure the most speed sensitive of all the lure categories. For instance, probably the most popular style of surface bait is a prop style bait like this. This water chopper here is a medium to even fast retrieve style bait. Makes a lot of noise, you can cover a lot of water with it. However, in more recent years, with everybody throwing this style of topwater being the most popular, we've really gravitated towards using a lot slower presentation. And flaptail is a lure style that has been around a long time, but has not been utilized really by muskie fishermen by and large until now. Slow topwaters as a whole has been our #1 technique for triggering fish when they simply are not biting. Think of it like smallmouth bass fishing with drop shot and, finesse plastics. Slow topwaters is finesse fishing for muskies. Let's just face it, a muskie is not always willing to chase a bait down, and the longer you can keep a bait in front of their face in the strike zone, the more advantage you have to trigger that fish into biting. Another thing to consider about topwater fishing is that there's no rules. We have caught fish on this style of bait all the way down to the 40-degree mark, so there are no rules to muskie fishing. So what does all this mean? Well, basically we have all these wonderful lure style and choices we can try. Try them, that's the fun part about muskie fishing. And with topwaters, you never know what style of bait they're gonna want on a given day. Each one makes a different sound. And when you get a reaction on a topwater bite, make sure you kind of mentally know what speed you were making that bait work to make a certain sound to trigger that fish. So the next time the muskies aren't cooperating, drag out your topwaters, rifle through all the different styles, but if I had to put my money on it, I would start with going ultra slow.
Muskie topwater fishing, I think without question, is the most exciting of anything in freshwater here in the Angling Buzz region.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Troy. And last summer I had the opportunity to fish with Lee and Robbie, and let me tell you one thing, those boys love to throw topwater. Now make sure to tune into next week's show because we're going to be talking about Canadian fishing.
And we want to remind you, as always here in Angling Buzz, to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species. Anytime you're leaving any body of water, remember, clean, drain, and dry.
And make sure to head over to your local Fleet Farm store because our friends from Seafoam are giving away a fully rigged Lund boat.
And we have our own sweepstakes here with Fleet Farm and the Buzz. You can win a fantastic weekend up on Lake Vermilion. Hey, thank you for joining us this week. I'm Troy Linder.
And I'm Nick Linder. We will see you next time.